we are the state of Florida where our candidates campaign on promises, and when they get in government, they deliver, and there's no better example of that than Governor Ron DeSantis. So without further ado, the 46th governor of the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis.
Good morning. Great to see you all up in Wisconsin. You know, people here are really nice, but if you really want to spend time with Wisconsinites, just go to Naples in January, and half of them are there. It's great to be here. Look, I just want to start off and kind of make a little bit of amends. Like, look, I was pretty hard on Joe Biden last night. It was merited. It was merited. Everything I said was true. But, in the spirit of unity, I just want to say that I sure hope he ends up with the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. I mean, to watch, it wasn't just that debate, but I think the fact that he was there for 90 minutes and people just saw. We had been seeing it. I've been saying this for years, and I've been dealing with him as governor for a long time. But then to do it, and then every single day, just not even being able to string sentences together and all this other stuff. If someone brought a candidate for mosquito control board appointment to me in Florida, and it was someone like Biden, there's no way I would appoint him to the mosquito control board. So he's not fit to lead, but I do think if the Democrats want to go down this road, I think that's the best possible scenarios for Republicans. And so I hope he sticks it out. It's kind of interesting because obviously there wasn't a convention in 2020. If you go back in the previous year's conventions, the Florida delegation was always kind of like the bee's knees from the sense of, as Florida went, so went the nation. Like, we knew Florida was going to be tough, we knew it was going to be tight, and we knew that if a Republican running for president didn't win Florida, the chance of getting elected president was close to zero. And so it was like Florida, Florida, Florida. There's some positives to that because people look and everything, but there's also some positives to the fact that we're already in the column now. People don't even think about Florida anymore. It's not viewed as the most important because we just assume. And when I got elected governor, people were saying Florida was going to be a blue state very soon. They had a lot of reasons for that. Any tea leaf, the media would try to do it and pump it up and everything like that. And, look, it wasn't a crazy thing because if you go back a decade, these races were all 1 point. You look 2010 governor's race, 2012 presidential, 2014 governor's race, 2016 presidential, 2018 governor's race, less than a point. I was there, I can tell you. And so, you could kind of see this is a very competitive state, and no one really knew it was going to happen. But it just shows you that, we're not consigned to failure. We're not consigned to have the Democrats take over everything. That leadership actually matters. And if you lead and you deliver, that people respond. And they've responded in Florida. They've responded around the country, because a lot of people have come to Florida in even greater numbers. I remember probably about 6 months into COVID, we were seeing, it was unbelievable. Like, everyone was coming to Florida, not necessarily even to move. A lot were moving, but just to go visit, because you get off the plane and it was like being in a different country if you're coming from Chicago or San Francisco or some of these places. But I remember we started seeing a lot of California license plates. And keep in mind, we're seeing those California license plates against the backdrop of a state that had been almost perfectly divided. And, a lot of my supporters are like, if we import Berkeley or Oakland into Florida, it is going to end up going blue. But I think what ended up happening was a lot of those folks, they were leaving, going all the way across the country because they couldn't stand it anymore, and they viewed Florida as a refuge of freedom and a citadel for sanity. And so they moved, and then they joined the Republican Party. And a lot of people even switched. They were Democrats, these other areas. And so, and I can count amongst those people that fled California, the governor's own father-in-law came and mother-in-law moved to the state of Florida. So you see what's happened. So we've been number one for net in-migration, I think every year since I've been governor. And but that's always been a concern. I remember when this was all really going down in 2020, people are flooding. You know, we had people, these are just citizens, they'd go to like Publix in like West Palm Beach, and they would find any New York license plate, and they'd put a flyer in the windshield and said, don't vote down here like they do up there. But I think the reality is that people got it. They saw the stark contrast. Yes, the contrast in COVID. Yes, families had to move just because they wanted their kids to be in school, and we had people do that from all across the country. They saw how we were taking on issues regarding education, parents' rights, things that are important. Saw how we were tough on crime. You know, while Soros-funded prosecutors are decimating cities in other parts of the country, I was removing Soros-funded prosecutors in Florida. So they see that, which is really good. But we also had folks who have been in Florida, who had been Democrats or had been no party, come and join the Republican Party in numbers that we haven't seen. The number of people that switch from D to R is far less, or is far more than the ones that go from R. It's not even close. And here's the thing. When I became governor, I recognized it was a competitive state. I'm like, I'm going to put money into voter registration efforts. And I'm not saying that doesn't work. But you don't go from having 300,000 more Democrats in the fall of 2018 to now having almost 1 million more Republicans. You don't do that. You don't do that just by putting money into voter registration, because if so, that would have been done by now. You do it by producing results that causes people to want to affiliate, and that's really what we've done. So just think about if we were here. Well, we didn't have one in 2020. If we were here in 2016, and someone told you that we would have a governor's race where we would win Miami-Dade County by double digits within the election cycle or two, and they bet you would have bet no on that. Everyone in this room would have bet no on that. If someone had told you that within a few years we'd have a Republican governor winning outright Palm Beach County, I know people would have said no. So, and if you look at the state, we're making gains. Obviously, the Dade County was great. Palm Beach has moved in our direction. We have a Republican majority on the Palm Beach County Commission. I mean, no one thought that was possible. We got a majority in Hillsborough now, all these other things. The Palm Beach had always been, I think, like 6-1. So we always had one Republican. Well, then in 22, we won 2. So it was 4-3 Dem split. But I was like, you know what? We need to do. So one of the commissioners, Dave Kerner, we put him at the DMV, and he's doing a great job there. And he had endorsed me, and he had worked well with us, and he did that. But then I was able to put Barnett in there, and we have a Republican majority. I mean, isn't that awesome? So if you look at, it's pretty much everywhere's moved in our direction. Palm Beach, even Broward. I mean, we got a long way to go in Broward, but it has moved. Miami. Hillsborough County, and I see our attorney generals here. Hillsborough County is on the brink. We're not there quite yet, but we will definitely get there. We're going to have more registered Republicans in Hillsborough than Democrats very soon. That's never happened. We weren't even close for many years. It had been just viewed as a blue county. And so, we were able to win that. Pinellas is red, and that had been red in the past, but had gone blue. We did that. We were able to win Osceola. I think we've got a ways to go on the registration, but I think that's trending in the right direction on that. Duval is trending to where I think we're going to be able to hopefully take that over. Really, the only places that we haven't really outpaced them are the places that have universities in them. Orange, UCF, Gainesville, Tallahassee, and then Gatsun's kind of a part of that. And then Broward's kind of its own separate thing. But I will tell you, no one's doing more on reforming universities than we are, so stay tuned on that. So so that's great, and I think it shows that this can be done. I think it can be done nationwide. I mean, I said it last night. You know, what I found just like going around, and even to this day, people come up to me for different reasons. When they see you standing in the breach and fighting for them and not backing down and delivering, they will go out and vote for you. They will turn out. They just want to know that you're going to be there and you're going to be willing to take the blows and fight back. And so we've done that in Florida. People appreciate it, and that's part of the reason why we've done that. And I think we can do that nationwide. Now, in terms of the election in Florida, it's not going to be competitive. Just think of how much money this is saving Republicans to not have to have a campaign in Florida. It's like $200 million we're saving by not having a campaign there. And so that's off. That's totally off the board. Biden certainly couldn't win. I don't think any Democrat could win it. Period. And it may not be Biden. I mean, like as much as I said, I want him to be the nominee. Like that's who we want to run against. I think there's people that will look at this and realize that it's one thing to have a bad debate because we all make mistakes. You can put your foot in your mouth. You can do different things, but it wasn't just that he had a bad debate. It was that he exposed a problem that is not fixable. And so there's not a way for them to get out of this as long as he's our candidate. So we have to be prepared for that. I don't think in Florida it's going to matter as much, but I think in other parts of the country, we may. But what we do have in Florida is we have 2 constitutional amendments that the left has put on the ballot. One is constitutional Amendment 4 to eliminate all pro-life protections, parental consent for abortion, and have abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. Now, that is wrong. That is something that we have to defeat. There's different people say, oh, well, don't do that. Like, look, it's never the wrong time to just do what's right. And so we have to win. And once people know what that is, I think that we will be able to do it. But it's going to take a lot of work. And then the other, Amendment 3, is the recreational marijuana, which, first of all, look, different people have different views on that. I'm not for it. I don't think it's good to do. I don't think we need to mess up the state. We've got great tourism, all this stuff. But there's 3 things I'd say on this. One is this is not like we're just doing this, hey, why not try it? Because, 10 years ago, Colorado did it, and they said, look, people are using it anyways. If you legalize it, you tax it, it's safer, it's above board, it'll shut down the drug trade, and it'll probably be more for public safety. And I get that, but that was tried, and that failed. That did not happen. They have a bigger black market of drugs today than when this passed. You go places like Denver, it smells like marijuana. It's not been good for quality of life. So that's just the reality. We've seen it in practice in a lot of these places. It hasn't delivered what they said it was going to deliver. The second thing I'd say on that is this is way more liberal than anything those other states have done. It gives you a limitless constitutional right to possess and smoke. I think it's up to 40 joints. Is that what the 3 ounces would be 40? More than that, 80 joints, something like that. And so we have medical marijuana. I implemented medical marijuana as governor. Some people were mad at me for doing it. I was like, the people voted for it. I'm going to implement it. I took an oath to the Constitution, so we're going to do it. So we have that. But if you look at the medical marijuana amendment, it has all these limitations about, you can't do it inside or whatever. This proposed amendment, and notice this is why these amendments are such a farce in Florida. You don't vote on the actual text that they're trying to amend the Constitution with. You don't, as a voter, see the text, how the Constitution's going to. I mean, imagine having to vote on one of the amendments to the federal Constitution and not knowing what the text was. They draft a summary, and you vote on the ballot summary. Well, that summary is poll-tested and focus group to try to sound ways to generate 60%. But if you read the actual text of this, they delete all the limitations that were in the Constitution from the medical marijuana stuff. So really, it would be a broader constitutional right than your First Amendment rights to speech, free exercise of religion and assembly, broader than the Second Amendment, broader than any other constitutional right. So I think you're talking about going like downtown somewhere, going to restaurants, all this. You are going to see this. I mean, it is going to be, and law enforcement's not going to want to police it at all. Because I've had some restaurant guys, well, I won't let them use it in my restaurant. Well, I'm not sure you're going to be able to do that, given how broad it is. But even if you could, even if you were right on the law, I don't think police are going to, they're going to just say, I'm not involved in marijuana anymore. And that's what's going to happen. So it's going to affect quality of life. Even if you have no interest in it, it's going to do. Third thing I'd say is, this is being driven by one company from Canada. And they came into Florida for medical. We believe in medical. We don't believe in recreational. And now they're spending tens of millions of dollars to do this. Again, you won't see this in the summary because it's in the text. But because I've had some people come to me say, yeah, I don't like marijuana, but maybe I'll grow it on my farm or something like that. No, you will not be allowed to. They are basically putting corporate protectionism in the Constitution to protect them so they get to sell it all. I mean, how ridiculous is this that we would let our Constitution basically be rent-seeking for some Canadian marijuana company? I mean, give me a break. So those two amendments, if they pass, Florida will get, first of all, you do what's right, but it'll be bad for quality of life, and it will make Florida more blue. There's no question that will happen over the course. So I would just say, it's fun being here. It's fun focusing on the national stuff. And I'm not saying don't do anything on that, but I don't see how a state with 1 million more Republicans is in jeopardy on that. But these amendments are a little bit more difficult just because it's a summary and all these other things. And we've got to be united as Republicans to do what's right on that. So I would ask when you go back to your counties, you work with your local parties, get engaged in those amendments. And the thing is, a lot of voters don't pay close attention to this. There's going to be a lot of advertising on it. But I think if Republicans are united on these, I don't think there's any way they could get to 60%. So that'll be the task that we're going to have going in the fall. And then the other ones, for those of you, I know we have Hillsborough, we have Orange and Osceola. We've got state attorneys races. People that I removed are running again. And look, it's not about me. It's just about, do you want prosecutors to prosecute people, or do you want prosecutors to have a political agenda where they basically are soft on crime? And again, this is not anything that we have to be speculative about. We've seen how this has ravaged cities all across the United States of America. So if you're in those areas, or heck, even if you're not, those should be races that you want to get involved in, because it really does matter for quality of life. Florida, we're the first state that has ever gotten involved where you've had candidates actually raising significant amounts of resources for this. Soros, this guy, how he does this money, he has been very destructive to this country. But on the prosecutors, what he recognized is, nobody gets involved in prosecutor races because the business community doesn't really do it. It's like whatever. So if he goes to a blue area and he gets $1 million behind some whack job leftist DA candidate, they will win the Democratic primary. And guess what? They'll end up getting elected. They did it in San Francisco. They did it in LA, Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Tampa, Orlando, all these places. And that's kind of what they've done. And I think he just, he's trying to just bring as much destruction to this country as possible. And I think what he recognized was he could do $100 million every cycle for U.S. Senate races. And honestly, you need money, but there's so much money, it doesn't really move the needle that much. But that $1 million, that buys a leftist to be in a DA seat. And so for all the money he's put in, it's a fraction of what he's done in these other things. That has had more impact in a negative way, but he thinks it's positive, than almost anything that's been done. So we're building a base to counteract that in Florida. If we win these races there, then the state of Florida, I think, could officially be declared Soros-proof. So that's... So I'll just say we've we're excited about the campaign. I think that, the last month, stuff in politics can change very quickly. I mean, a month and a half ago, we were favored to lose the U.S. House of Representatives. Now people are like saying, we could potentially have a big, but things can change. But I think I like the momentum and the trajectory that we have. And then in Florida, we're still putting up major wins. And we've got, hopefully we don't have any storms this summer that hit us, but we'll be ready for that if it is. But we've got a lot that we're going to do. Our state now, since I've been governor, all the debt that Florida had from the 1800s to the present, we've paid off 36% of that. And we're going to end up getting higher on that. And so we have the lowest per capita debt in the United States, second lowest per capita state tax burden in the United States. Our budget this year, after my budget vetoes, spends less than last year's budget. Who is cutting spending anywhere in this country? We are in Florida. And yet we're still doing things like raise teacher pay, all these roads. We're building so many more roads because I need it with all the people coming. We're doing Everglades restoration. We're doing, you name it, we're doing it. And yet we're doing it within a budget that's cutting taxes, paying down debt, and actually reducing spending. So don't tell me it can't be done. Don't tell me. And, if we get a Republican House, Senate, everything, they've got to put up or shut up when it comes to this spending. Biden has gotten everything he's wanted, and we have a Republican House. We wouldn't have even had a Republican House if it weren't for Florida. Florida elected 4 new Republicans. But you got to do it. So we've shown how to do that in Florida. We now have, because we have universal school choice, we've got 800,000 kids on either private scholarship or charter schools, another 800,000+ in choice programs within school districts. Nobody else has even sniffed that in the history of our country, and we're continuing to do more and more. And it touches people in really profound ways. I'll just be walking around and someone will come up to me, I take a picture with me, they'll send it to their friend, they'll be like, oh, tell them thanks for the scholarship for my kids, we've got a great school now. So all this stuff really matters. And our university systems ranked #1 in America 6 years in a row. So that's really positive. I think Evan mentioned we were the first state to eliminate DEI from our public university system. But what we've also done, which may be even more important, now in Florida, all tenured professors must undergo a review every 5 years and can be terminated. And so this is now allowing us to kind of get academia focused on the classical mission of pursuing truth, preparing students to be citizens of this republic, high standards, not be some type of an indoctrination camp. That is not a good use of your tax dollars. And so we're doing something about it. And, some of these professors that were unproductive and very, they had their other agendas, they've gotten processed out. And, the media will be like, oh, these professors are fleeing Florida. Wait a minute. If Marxist professors are leaving Florida, that is not bad for Florida. That is good for Florida. But what we're also doing is, we have money, a fund, the presidents of the universities and the board. We have like the Hamilton Center at University of Florida, which is like Western civilization, like things that we all used to study in college. Now it's like a niche thing because they've gone so far left. So we have that. So you can go to Hillsdale College and say, okay, you're a great history professor, you're making $200,000. We'll give you $225,000 to come to University of Florida. Or you can go, Richard Corcoran can go from New College to Princeton and say, hey, we want you to come to New College, we'll pay. So we have that, but they can hire directly, because what happens is when the faculty controls hiring, well, guess what? If you're coming out there and you're not towing the ideological line, do you think you're going to get hired through that process? No, that's not going to happen. So we are bringing in huge amounts of talent and really changing the game with respect to higher education. And as a Florida resident, you get to go for the same tuition that you had like 10 years ago. We haven't raised tuition, $6,300 a year. And if you have test scores high enough, you're out of state, you can qualify for in-state tuition based on your grandparents' residency. We've got a lot of interest in that as I've been talking more about it. So that's really important. But if you think about all the crime, all this stuff, immigration, we've done all that stuff well. But the education, part of the reason our country's where it is because of the decline of American education. So we're doing something about it in Florida. We've had tremendous success, but we've got a lot more to do. So be proud of that. Be proud that your state is leading the way on issues after issues. I mean, there'll be legislators from other states that take pilgrimages to come down to Florida, meet with the legislature, meet with my office, and then they've been able to do a lot of the stuff that we're going to do. So it's exciting. It's great to be in a great state, and it is great to be at a Republican convention where a Florida delegation doesn't need to be on pins and needles about the outcome, where we don't have to worry about turning blue, where we can say proudly that Florida is a Republican state and the premier Republican state in all of these United States. Thank you all. God bless you. Enjoy Wisconsin. We'll see you back home. Thank you so much.